please check out the links down below in the description box. Very important. Far Cry 6 still suffers from major CPU single-threaded issues. For capturing this video, they used an Intel i9-9900K with 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM at 3600 Hz using NVIDIA's RTX 3080 on driver 472.12. Additionally, they've included MSI's Afterburner, which will give you an idea of how the game runs. Now, as you will be able to see in the video, one CPU thread core is being maxed out constantly while the game can use some additional threads. It relies heavily on one single thread. This is also nothing new. This is very Ubisoft-like. What this basically means is that you'll encounter major performance issues even on high-end PC systems. Due to these single-threaded issues, they were bottlenecked by their CPU at both 1080p Ultra and 1440p Ultra. Yes, you read that right. At 1440p Ultra, they were CPU bound and not GPU bound. And while an Intel Core i9-9900K can get constant 60 FPS, it's impossible to even come close to a 120 FPS experience even at 1080p. Nick, who's currently reviewing the game, also encountered major CPU performance issues on his system. And while he's using an older Intel CPU, an i7-3930K, his CPU utilization was averaging around 40%. He says, and I quote, "Maybe it's just me, but Far Cry 6 doesn't run as well as I'd hope. I barely can maintain 60 FPS at 1440p on my older Intel CPU, but newer RTX 3070. And that's on medium settings. This is unfortunate. I've got the latest NVIDIA drivers. I'm just surprised at how I can't break 60 FPS on my machine, given that the game doesn't look all that much better than Far Cry 5. I was also very shocked to see only 40% CPU utilization and even only 60% GPU utilization, and I don't think it's ever gone over this so far. I guess that explains why the FPS is so low. My hardware isn't being utilized like it should be." They will talk more about the game's overall performance in their upcoming PC performance analysis. Still, this seems to be really disappointing to witness such CPU optimization issues. Far Cry 6 uses the DX12 API, thus they were hoping that this low-level API would help address its CPU single-threaded issues. However, that's not the case here. Ultimately, and similarly to previous Far Cry games, Far Cry 6 is still suffering from CPU single-threaded issues. I want to throw in something really quick. I know a lot about computers, but I'm never going to claim to be an expert. I'm never going to claim that I know everything. All I can do is share with you my experience. Tried, tested, and true. This whole thing that, oh, my CPU's only using 40%, my GPU's only using 60%, it's not using most of the hardware. That could be true. However, I've never played a game in which those were insanely high anyways. I can run, and I will just give you one example. I can play Red Dead Redemption 2 on high-ish settings, like some decent settings, so it looks better than console. And I can rock that bitch at 60 FPS on an i7-6700 non-K, non-overclocked, with 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, shit from 6-7 years ago, and an RTX 2070 Super. Now, I don't remember my exact numbers for the CPU usage and GPU, but I could promise you it's not 70, 80, 90%. I don't think you ever want to go that high, and I also want to finish off with something very important here. When a game is well optimized, and I've seen this with patches throughout history, in which, for example, the 60% GPU, maybe the 40% CPU, ends up being lower. It's the other way around, I think, maybe. If your hardware is being utilized properly and efficiently, and it's well optimized, you don't need that percentage number to be skyrocketed through the roof. I've had a game, like I said, that would be at, let's say, 60% GPU, 60% CPU, to keep the numbers simple. I'm getting, let's say, 53 frames per second on average. They optimize it with an update. Now my GPU and my CPU are no longer at 60%. They're, let's say, at 50%. You could be thinking to yourself, yeah, it's 10%, whoopee shit. You're still nowhere near bottlenecking yourself maxed out at 100. But now my frames are improved. Now I'm averaging 64, 65 frames per second. So I lock it with the VSync, right? And I lock it, and now I get a rock solid 60 FPS. But now my hardware is using an even lower number. That's what I wanted to share with you. I'm not saying he's wrong. I just wanted to throw in my side on that whole utilization thing when you do Control-Alt-Delete within Windows, right? Don't always just go by that. If anything, I would have thought the utilization would have been really nasty if it's at 90% kind of thing, because now you're throttling the piss out of it. If it's well optimized, it's like a car. A car can go fast. You don't need to be redlining the RPMs at fucking 10,000. Maybe what I said made no sense, but it's true, and it's real, and it's accurate based on my experience. I've marked this shit down with a pen and fucking paper over the years. I know that was a bit of a rant, and I kind of went off into left field. But I wanted to share this with you. The whole point of this video is just to bring that awareness that there are some issues, and if you're still on the fence and you haven't pre-ordered the game, or you have, and you want to cancel it, whatever. In closing, I've watched Xbox Series X and PS5 gameplay of the game. Up to an hour of footage on both. And I've watched a little bit on PC with various different hardware settings. It's running much smoother from what I've witnessed so far on console. Can't really say I'm surprised by that. I know that PC's the master race, but you have to understand something. No two computers are built the same. No two people have the same hardware specs. Everybody's Xbox Series X is the same. Everybody's PlayStation 5 is the same. So when they code the game, they're coding it for that platform. When they're doing it for a computer, yes, computers can do a lot more. Ultra-wide, higher resolution, better frame rate, mods, all that bullshit, I get it. But there's a dark side to PC gaming that a lot of people don't like to admit. I'm just saying, for now, your best bet is probably on a next-gen console, if you have one. So, that's enough of this rant. This video is probably a lot longer than it needed to be. That's just unfortunately what I do. I really, really enjoy, beyond anything you'll ever understand, making these kinds of videos where I'm actually not playing a game, so I could fully focus and have my mind zoned in on the task at hand, rather than driving a car at 300 miles an hour while also looking into the camera, so I can hypnotize you into subscribing to the channel and sharing it a million times, so I can make a couple of dollars so that maybe I can afford to buy the game. Which brings me to this. If you did like the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up. It really helps support the channel with the algorithm and making me a little bit more relevant in the search results when people are looking shit up online. You didn't like the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs down, and I'll make sure for the rest of your life, your brain only operates at 40%. You're lucky if it even works at 50. No, I'm just kidding. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, I mean, naturally, that would be great. By the way, don't ask me what the fuck that just was. This is like, I didn't get all that much sleep. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And if you want to subscribe, that would be great, and if not, whatever. Thanks for stopping by anyways. Take care, and yeah, comment down below in the comment section. Call me a bald, sweaty pumpkin head. It's good times because that actually scratches the algorithm, and by you doing that, you're actually helping me out. All right, bye for now.